Hi, everyone. Welcome to the March Mentor Zoom for mentors working with teachers in their first year in the profession. First thing I would like to do is I'd like to do a quick check-in. I have a Padlet for everybody. I'm going to drop the Padlet link. It's just kind of a check-in to see how your classroom visits are going. There's the link to the Padlet. I'm going to start the timer and just give you 5 minutes to let me know how your classroom visits have gone so far. I'm also going to put the attendance link into the chat box, Marilyn. I don't know if you were on. Well, and here we have somebody joining. I'm going to drop the attendance link into the chat box, as well as the Padlet check-in link. So there's two things we're working on. Hi, Annie. We're doing the attendance and we're doing a quick check-in with the Padlet link. And both of those have been dropped into the chat for you. We're going to go a couple more minutes.
How do you write on the Padlet?
You should be able to double click and it'll let you, if you there's a plus button typically. There's a plus button right here in the lower right-hand corner, which will let you. Is it work? It's still not working?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about, a plus button. I can double click and it says subject.
Has everyone else been able to get into the Padlet? No? Yes, you were able to, Annie?
Beautiful.
A lot of times you just double click and it'll let you, it'll allow you to get a box. You see here in the right-hand corner where I have a box, and then I can move this box around. Let's see. I don't think I'm the owner of this, so it may not. I think I have to put it into an incognito window to get it, because I'm the owner. Let me put it into an incognito window, and this is what it should look like. You should be able to get in there, and then there's this plus button in the right-hand corner that lets you type in something. So then you could say, this is like a test Padlet response.
Does it have publish in the right-hand corner? That thing,
Yes.
is that what you're talking about?
Yep.
Okay. All right, I did
Yes,
find.
correct.
Michelle, do you see my little thing?
I see your comment.
Okay.
Yes.
I had to sign in, so that's why
Oh, maybe that's what
I
the
signed
problem
in.
is.
Yeah.
Okay. I might need to change the settings on this guy here. Maybe it's not. Padlet has been kind of buttoning down the hatches, and they don't really offer things as easily as they used to. I had this Padlet link last year, so Annie, you were able to. Did you have to sign in, Annie? It forced you to sign in? No?
No, it didn't.
Okay.
Oh.
I don't know. I was already signed into my Google. I don't know
Oh, I wonder.
if Google, but I'm not sure.
So if you're not able to get into a Padlet, then I'll make some changes on the Padlet and I'll push it out to folks who weren't able to. Hi, Jennifer. How are you? We are in a Padlet right now, just doing a mentor check-in. There's the link for you. I'll also put the attendance link. We're having some technical difficulties with it. I was able to get into it on an incognito window. However, I think you have to be signed into your Google account to get into the Padlet. A couple folks have been able to put a response in there, but not everyone. Were you able to get into it, Jennifer? Yes, perfect. Awesome. How about you, Rob? Were you able to get into the Padlet?
Yeah, but I've had the wrong window open, so I'm still trying to get things going right.
Okay, there's a response from Jennifer. There's this plus in the bottom right-hand corner that should give you a box where you could type your response, and then you publish that response. Okay, it looks like it's working for Rob. Perfect. Okay, we are going to continue on. Thanks for that mentor check-in. I do read your responses, and I just want to make sure that everything's working. Doing the classroom visits are productive for everyone. So I appreciate that feedback. Okay, so what is mentoring going to look like for the 2024-25 school year? This year, you're working with new to profession teachers, and the expectation is that you meet with your mentee 3 times a month and you attend the Zoom session. Next year, when you think about that gradual release of responsibility, if you're willing to continue working with your mentee, it looks a little different. And again, that release of responsibility would assume that they don't need as much support. So the second year work with a mentee in their second year in the profession would be 4 classroom visits during the school year. And those visits would be quarterly, and there would be 4 Zooms. So it looks different because new to profession teachers are no longer doing everything for the first time. They're in their second year, and in that second year, it's a good time to transition from induction, just teaching them how to do their job, to putting more of a focus on classroom instruction. So now that you kind of have an idea of what next year might look like, I have a survey to let me know what your interest is. Now, there is a button in there that if you're retiring next year, you can just let me know that you're retiring, but it kind of helps me plan for next year. There's the survey. If you just take a couple minutes to answer the survey and let me know your interest in working with your new to profession teacher in their second year.
Michelle, quick question. None of them have contracts yet.
I know.
How do we even know they'll even
that's a
be in
good
our
point.
building?
So
Yeah.
let me know your interest, and then
Mhm.
we'll problem solve as the time comes, as contracts come out, and we know who return for the school year next year. Yeah, it's a wonky year. It's a super wonky year. If I know you're interested and they come back, then we can just start the work early. However, there's always some modifications in the second year, depending on if you're new to profession teacher, even is at your building. Sometimes they move buildings as well. So just let me know your interest.
Where were we putting that, Michelle?
I dropped it in the chat box. I'm going to drop it in there again.
I keep clicking on everything and I'm getting the same thing.
Let me try one more time. Maybe it didn't pick up. Our other,
I got it.
okay, perfect, perfect. I'll give you a minute to fill that out, Rob. It'll be pretty easy because you just have one, you just get to click the
47 days.
I'm retiring
47
box.
days.
All right, so let's go ahead and continue on. Okay, so March. March is a short month because we have spring break next week. So there'll only be 2 weeks where you'll meet with your mentor, March 17th, March 24th. There's a lot of things to talk with your mentee about on March 7th for the week of March 17th. So it's perfectly okay if some of those topics that you need to talk with your mentee about, if they need to move to the week of the 24th. But there's just two meetings next month. What are those meetings going to look like? The slides for those will be coming up shortly, but first I want to talk about mentee visits. So you did the February visit. The hope is that you'll have an opportunity to do 3 classroom visits over the course of, over till the end of the year. You've probably done your February visit. It would be good if you could do a March and an April visit. If you have an opportunity to do that March visit, if you're in elementary, it would be good to see math. If you saw language arts, see a different content area. If you are in the secondary, it would be good to see a different period. Dynamics change from period to period. So be thinking about that March visit. Now, remember that there is the opportunity to get a sub if you want to be out of the classroom, but it looks different for every mentor. Some of you like to just go in on your planning period, or you can get the sub. So just know that there is a process. If you want to get a sub, you just reach out to me and I will make sure that that there's the paperwork trail for you to get a sub so that you can be out of your classroom to see your mentee. If that's
Well, if we're just doing it during a prep hour, do we need to do anything at all?
yes, and I'm going to be talking about that on the next slide. Yes. So this is actually brand new. I created this classroom visit form because it has been requested from me that we do have some kind of accountability, some kind of documentation when you're doing those visits. So there is a form that I'm going to drop into the chat box right now, and every single month in the future, in February, March, and April, we're going to fill out this survey. So if you could open up that survey and fill that out in reference to your February classroom visit. Was everyone able to pull up that form and fill it out? Perfect. And I wonder if I messed it up somehow. So now it's
Oh.
fixed.
Yeah, all good.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Perfect. So we are entering testing season, so it's a good time to put that on your mentee's radar. They may or may not know the testing dates, but again, you want to put that on their radar. Also during the week of March 17th, we'll talk about checking for understanding, and also you want to set up your classroom visit for March. Okay, so while you're putting the testing dates on your mentee's radar, I do have some test taking strategies you can print off and give to them as well. Being a new to profession teacher, they may not be familiar with some of the strategies. I mean, they're pretty basic strategies. However, they're all in one place, and they'll give your mentee a little bit of focus when you think about testing. So this is just a down and dirty resource to provide your mentee. Some of these things are, seem like common sense, but just having them all in one place is just beneficial for somebody who may not be super familiar with what testing looks like. Now, if looking at your first STAR, if you're a SPED teacher and your students have accommodations which allow them to use a calculator, it's super important that you teach them how to use the online calculator as well as give them time to practice. And that, not only does that go for SPED, but that goes for all students who will be expected to navigate the STAR or any of the testing platforms that are required. It's always a good idea to advise your mentee to get into the platform and give students a chance to practice, because it is important that they know how to navigate, they know how to use the tools, because students aren't going to be able to show what they know if they're not able to navigate the platform. So those test taking strategies also encompass doing the practice tests in the AK STAR platform. This month, we're shining the spotlight on checking for understanding. Remember that Hattie did that huge meta-analysis and found the strategies with the highest impact in classrooms. A 0.20 effect size is considered small, 0.5 medium, and anything with a 0.8 or higher is considered to have a large impact on student learning. So when we think about being strategic about the learning target, teacher clarity came out at 75, and feedback, checking for understanding, came out as 0.73. So again, thinking about effect size, if 0.8 has a large impact on learning, then being clear about learning objectives and checking for understanding, giving feedback, is a strategy that is important. So, and that's why it's on the lesson look fors. It's one of the 4 big ticket items on the lesson look fors: learning target engagement, checking for understanding, and closure, because it has an impact on student learning when you're checking for that understanding. So what you're looking at is lots of different ways to check for understanding. Now, as veteran teachers, we have our go-tos. What works for us? What fits in our teaching style? Now, your new to profession teacher may not have had an opportunity to try out all these different strategies, these check for understanding strategies. So having a resource is a good going to benefit them. So I'm dropping 2 resources. The first resource is 53 ways to CFU, to check for understanding. So there's lots of different ways, lots of different ideas, so that your mentee can get their feet underneath them and start trying out some of these check for understanding strategies if they don't already have some that they prefer. There's also another resource, and I'm dropping that in the chat as well. This resource is called Formative Assessment. It has a lot of overlap with 53 ways to check for understanding, but the more resources you can provide for your mentee, the better. Now, for me, I love to use the good old whiteboard. I was a whiteboard kind of girl, and that was my go-to check for understanding. And we all have our own go-to check for understanding. So just encourage your mentee to find some that they really like. When we think about the Danielson evaluation model, 3D is all about checking for understanding and giving feedback. At a proficient, the teacher elicits evidence of student understanding. At a distinguished, the teacher is constantly taking the pulse of the class. Monitoring of student understanding is sophisticated and continuous and makes use of strategies to elicit information about individual student understanding. So checks for understanding are very important, and they're the cornerstone of lessons, in my opinion. So there's those 2 resources that I already dropped into the chat. Again, you can print them off. You can send them electronically, but they're great resources. Lots and lots of different ways to check for understanding. Okay, now I had a video that I wanted to show, and I was messing around with my slides. Here they are. So I think we're gonna have time for this particular video. We're not gonna have time to analyze a lesson like we did last month, just because we have so much to do. But I think this is a 2-minute video, and I think we have time for this.
Hi, my name is Abby Thomas. I teach 7th grade science at East Muskingum Middle School, and this is my 6th year.
So anything that's living, this is clearly going to be biotic.
I do a lot of checks, but I constantly need to see them. I need to see them all the time. And it's just something as simple as the quick cards, or it can just be a thumbs up, thumbs down. I constantly need to assess them. And if I see most of them, even half of them don't know it, that's my cue as a teacher to go back through and start over or review that topic.
So let's start with the first one. So at the top, abiotic is going to be red, the red card, and biotic is going to be green. So we're just going to work with the red and green card for a second. All right? Slug. So think to yourself, is that abiotic or biotic? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Green, good. What about this one? Still the same. Red is abiotic, green is biotic. Dirt. 1, 2, 3.
So I think the checks are a good way of learning the information instead of just writing the notes down, to just stop and review those vocabulary words. I always include multiple examples. So if they miss that one and I see that the majority or most of the kids are missing it, it gives me time to review, and I will always include more. Formative assessment is so much quicker. If I'm going through and I'm grading everything, kids get intimidated by a piece of paper and a pencil, and I'm telling them to turn it in for a homework grade or anything. A quick little putting a card up in the air and not being afraid to get the answer wrong, it's so much more effective.
Yes, organism.
So that's all I had on check my understanding. Know that you can reach out if you have any questions or there's any issues, but we're going to move on to the next week. We have, again, there was a lot of recommended topics in March 17th now, and then the week of March 24th, as always, is the debrief of the reading. Strategically, the March 24th for the first days of school focuses on assessment. For our purposes, in the mentoring process, you're really looking at the day-to-day checks for understanding in the lesson look-fors. The reading did spend a lot of time on rubrics and the benefit they provide to students. And I agree, rubrics provide a description of levels of performance or mastery. On a rubric, students know what proficient looks like, so they measure themselves. Know that there are so many rubrics out there on the internet. No teacher need create one from scratch. You can most definitely find something to start with and then modify from there. Remind your mentee about the KPPSD writing rubrics that can be found in the curriculum tab. Of the 4 big ideas that I took away from the reading, I would want mentees to recognize the importance of that day-to-day formative assessment, those checks for understanding, as well as there should always be a match between the learning target and the checks for understanding. So those are the big ideas from the first days of school. For the 10 critical components for success in the special education classroom, the reading was chapter 8. And the chapter talks about communication systems or strategies. It's all about teaching the students good communication skills. Oftentimes, whether it is general or special ed students, behavior is a way that a student is communicating. The more we can model and teach appropriate social skills, the more opportunities for success in life in general. And that goes for general ed and special ed. Teaching and modeling good communication should be woven into everything we do as a teacher. SPED students may need to be strategically taught these skills, as they may not be picking them up from the classroom or the school environment. So those are the big ideas from the SPED book. And those will be on your Foursquare, so you don't have to remember them or go back to the PowerPoint. They'll be sitting on your Foursquare waiting for you. Okay, so last thing I want to talk about is just one more example of the lesson look fors. I've been showing you an example every single month, and I'm going to continue doing that. Although we didn't have time to analyze a lesson today, we will in April. But if you're looking at the new example, it's on the right-hand side, it's the bigger one. Note that there's a learning target, the engagement, the checks for understanding, and the closure. And in these examples, I really want you to notice that they're not written in sentence form, they're written in just small phrases. That's all you need to do. All you need to do is a small phrase to remind you of what those big ticket items in the lesson were. There's no reason to scribe what the teacher is saying or write in paragraph form. Just a short phrase of those big ticket items that you're seeing as the lesson progresses. What I do want you to notice is in what went well, there's lots of information in the what went well. As the mentor, you get to be their cheerleader. So you want to pick out all the good things that you're seeing in this lesson. For example, in this example, what went well? The addressing misconceptions. The teacher was working with a small group. The teacher had proximity to students. They were very close to the students so that he or she could check in on what they were doing. And the students used the answer sheet appropriately, which is also a skill. You have to teach kids how to use answer sheets. So just be sure that you are capturing all the good things that you're seeing in the lesson. And that's really what you want to fill in with as much detail as possible. And on this particular example, you'll notice there's just one question, which students need more practice in the skill. And this is your opportunity to scribe a question for the debrief where you want the conversation to go. Again, remember that as the mentor, you're the cheerleader. Your role is not to pose any concerns. Your role is to be a cheerleader and give them opportunities for reflection. There's the April reading for critical components. It's chapter 9. For general ed, it's pages 290 through 306. So if you have a eager beaver mentee, they can get started on the April reading if they want to. There's actually lots of good nuggets in these books, and I do hope that the mentees are reading through the books. Okay, our next mentor Zoom is Thursday, April 3rd. Mark your calendars. And as always, the last two things that we do is I want you to check out the March checklist and make sure that you have your Foursquares. So I'm going to stop here. I've been talking nonstop for almost 30 minutes. I'm going to stop here, pause, see if we have any questions as well as give you time to get into your Google Drives. Make sure you have your Foursquares. They're there. I know they are. But it's more important that you know how to get there. And so if you're still struggling to get to your Google Drive and you don't find them, I'm right here and let's problem solve together.
I have mine. It's all there.
Perfect. All right.
I'm good too.
Awesome. So if you don't have any other questions, you feel like you're ready to rock and roll in March, then I bid you good night and have a great spring break.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Good night,
Bye.
Emily.
Bye.